I'm rolling on both cameras.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get threes, let's get twos, let's get ones, and that means we got Showtime in the building. Say Something's back in the house. Welcome back, y'all. We got a dope show again, as always, because sports just doesn't stop, which is good for us because there's always something to talk about. And that also fits our title, obviously, of the show. So we're just going to keep doing it. But before we get into that, as we always do, our little tradition to start things off. Check your rights, check your lefts. You got people there or you got time to send a quick text, please do so. Check in on your people. You never know when it might make that difference. How you doing, Mitch? What's going on?
Man, doing good. Happy to be back. Another good week. Had a good weekend. It was fun. This week just been working a lot. Ready to get to this talking, man. Love me some sports. A lot been going on with Steph and the Warriors. So Chef. I'm excited to just talk about that. What about yourself?
Oh, man, good. Same thing, just week grind. At this point, it's just kind of like, there's nothing new. Right. You know what I mean? Exactly. So I'm just ready.
Routine.
Exactly. Routine. And this is about one of the, very few things that I can get into my week that is still somewhat a routine, but because it's always brand new stuff and we get to come back and do what we care to do on this show, it always brings something fresh. So I do love that Thursday check mark for myself of like, this is happening and I can let my brain kind of fly on the things that I like thinking about. So let's get into some of the stuff that we've been thinking about, talking about, and some things that have been on our mind. We got the NBA first and foremost. Obviously, as Mitch said in the intro, the Warriors have been cooking, and I probably should have said that actually is helping my mood as well. Like when I watch the Warriors and they're playing well, for surely that makes my check-ins better, all the above. Every time. I apologize, Warriors, for not even throwing you in there. I'm glad I could wrap it up and get you in there somehow. But yeah, man, they're playing really, really good ball. 10-1 since getting Jimmy. Steph has truly been on fire, looking like the star we've all expected.
Yeah.
And kind of being unlocked, if you will, by Jimmy. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're seeing? We talked a little bit of last week, but it has continued. And then do you think this is sustainable?
I think it's been great having Jimmy with us now for the last 11 games, obviously 10-1. I think it's freed Steph up. You finally see him moving around the court as freely as he wants to at all times. Jimmy, whenever they need it, they can throw it down to him. He can control the ball down low. And I think it's been other guys like Moses Moody who have been influenced by Jimmy Butler coming through.
Yes,
and
sir.
Quentin Post has been a huge, huge help for the team. Somebody who came out of nowhere as a rookie. He's been helping us a lot.
Absolutely.
It's also been helping Pajimski. So I think the addition of Jimmy Butler has just raised the level of all of our players.
Yep.
And it's just been exciting to watch, and all the highlights are crazy. I mean, Steph is obviously the number one person to be watching right now. I know the Lakers are doing good as well, but right now, if you're not watching Steph, you're not watching the best of basketball. So I'm just happy to see them be happy while they play. Steph always putting on a show, and the rest of the guys just following through and just ascending to the best of their abilities. And I'm excited for when we actually get Jonathan Kuminga back, because that's really going to put us to the next level. And that's really where I think we're going to see exactly what we can actually do, to your point of like, is this sustainable? Well, we got to see. He's supposed to be our biggest, up and coming star.
Yeah.
And he's also semi-big man. So, and that's what we really lack is size.
Yeah.
So somebody else who can get to the rim, be a good rebounder, hopefully, and somebody who can attack and really dominate at the post. I think he's somebody who's going to really be the meter to show,
absolutely,
to be the person to see if we can keep this up and keep this going into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
But have you heard when he's going to come back?
Dude, hasn't it felt like forever?
It's been a while, and I feel like there's been no updates. I feel like people have stopped talking about
100%.
Jonathan Kuminga like he's not even on the team anymore.
Right. We're 10-1.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, we haven't even seen him. Can you imagine if he's out there instead of Guy Santos for 24 minutes? Like, no offense, Guy. We've been appreciating these minutes. He's been putting solid minutes.
Super hustle guy.
Great guy to have on the court. Not knocking you, but you also aren't Jonathan Kuminga on our team.
Not even close.
So,
not even close.
So, what if you're putting up that 24 minutes with a Jimmy Butler. Like I can just imagine the kind of pick and rolls or just kind of passing off each other, the
God.
different kind of cuts they'll find
Whew.
Kuminga on, just because he's going to be wide open because the focus is going to be on Steph, Jimmy, and every other player. So it's exciting to see, and I think that'll be the changing factor if we're going to be a team that's going to compete when it comes to the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you mentioned that's so awesome is, like, I just can't wait to see what Jimmy's effect will be on Kuminga. Because it's like, I think he'll love to play with a guy like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like just ultra athletic, can do basically everything. And, at the end of the day, will kind of, I think, in certain lineups, really push Jimmy to the de facto point, which I think we'll love because of how smart he plays down the stretch. And can we give a quick shout out to Quinn Post? I mean,
yeah, man, Quinn.
Where would we be without you? You know what I mean? I know, as they say, the postage is in the mail.
Right.
He's getting it done. Okay. And this guy's a rookie, a second rounder out of BC, I think, Boston College.
He moved around different places.
Right.
He's like, 24 or something like that?
Right. And that really just shows, our not only development team, but it also shows our scouting department. I mean, we continually find these guys that I surely don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the rest of the league knows. I mean, half the time they're drafting, everybody's like, yeah, I mean, we get what they just drafted them for, but I mean, how's it going to work? And so to see it that fast, I think is something that's super applaudable. I mean, I did not expect it. I loved the pick in terms of once I saw him play and just the potential. We don't have 7-footers often. So the potential of seeing a guy that was clearly over 7 foot. It's not one of those tweeners, this is a 7-footer, and the range he has. And what that can do with our spacing. And just to see how many freaking top of the key. I mean, he's just right at the top of the three and wide open. And just to think, it's like, okay, Steve, like, I get it. Like, you're smart. But, like, how is that not something that we all have been recognizing as available? You get a guy that they can't afford to cover guys like that. You just can't. And you can't leave a 40% shooter at the top of the three, staring the basket down and doing this time in and time again, running up. He's running up. Nobody's even checking him because 7-footers can't do that.
Right.
And especially with the way we run our offense. So I think Quentin Post is one of the most essential parts of this run we've been on and before it. I mean, I think even though we were still playing like 500 ball, it was like he would come in these spurts where it's like, okay, we look much better out there.
Yeah.
Now it's not just trash Steph and worry about everybody else shooting anything. There was a little bit more second guessing going on with defenses, which I think is phenomenal. And then, I love what Moody's doing. I mean, we've been preaching on this show. The guy doesn't do much wrong, and he just continues to show that he's mature beyond his years, and he does the things that our offense likes, right? Like he shoots the three very well, doesn't turn the ball over a lot, plays great perimeter defense, 6'7" with length.
Check.
Come on. I'm just glad they're 22, right? So they're still super young, and now it's at a point where you just can't avoid it. So fine. If it has to be at 22, they're still super young. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But all gas from here. All gas, no brakes. And we get we get Kuminga back, and man, I think that the sky.
Who's out of the rotation?
The sky is the ceiling, I think. Who's out of the rotation? I mean, I think that overall, if we're gonna look at it like that, I think that sadly, I mean, you would see Moody's minutes go down a little bit. Moody's getting like starter minutes, and so Moody will probably go down to, 22, 23 range nightly. That's about 6 minutes gone. And then, Pods will take a hit. Pods is out there, most nights. I mean, matchup-wise, most nights, though, he's been getting 30 plus.
Yeah.
So, I assume he'll get down to, let's call it 24, 25. I mean, he's been playing so good, it's going to be hard to get him out the lineup as a secondary playmaker.
Did something happen to him tonight? I see he only had 1 minute played.
Ooh, probably then. Yeah, I didn't see him a lot. I didn't see him a lot. So we'll definitely have to check that up. And I feel like he was maybe questionable going in. And so maybe there was a tweak of some sort.
Lower back soreness.
Lower back, okay.
Lower back soreness.
So, get well soon.
Yeah.
We'll need you back. But, if Kuminga's on his way back soon, that might be an okay injury to deal with right now, just to escort him on in with a plethora of minutes. That'd be great. But, again, we'd like to be at full strength so that we can truly let Steve Kerr fine-tune whatever our playoff lineups are going to be in our closing lineups and things like that. But very excited to see the state of them. Can we sustain it? I'm just going to second what Mitch said. I think we need to see Kuminga. We need to see how that looks, and then we can judge a little bit from there. The reason we're asking, can we sustain this, is we've done this before.
Yeah.
So
That's how we started the season.
We've seen this happen. We've seen us go on runs or a run, whatever you want to call it. And there's actually been a couple, but really the biggest one was that 12-3, I think it was, to start the season or something, maybe 12-2. And this is around the same time. So it's always worthy of asking. There's always a honeymoon period. And once that ends, is this real, right? Or is this just, as some people say, just getting right for the honeymoon and reality hits when you get back?
So it seems as if Kuminga had hurt his ankle right back in the day, and they're just gonna, since we're 10-1, like we just said, they're gonna ease him back in. He's saying he's playing in full scrimmages right now, but they're still just waiting for him to get, I guess, his legs back underneath him. So it's still gonna be a while whenever we're doing this good.
Right.
Hopefully he can get back soon because we need that.
Right. And if Pods is gonna be missing time, I'm sure they'll ramp that up.
100%.
Okay, it's your turn. That's all we got really with the Warriors right now. Obviously, we'll be watching game in, game out at this point to keep up with what's going on. Just a quick look at the standings. I figured we'd do that because we have, obviously, with a 10-1 run, been ascending
all the way up.
So let's just take a quick peek at the standings, get you guys right in the mix. The East is not worthy of talking about, so we'll skip it.
Cleveland and the Celtics.
No, they're good. They're good.
Everybody else is kind of just seeing where things are at. Pistons are having a good year. That's a good story for the East side. Pacers are just still that team that's middling out. What are they doing? Who knows? Is Tyrese Halliburton going to be able to even play a full season? Is he going to be available in the playoffs? Who knows? Bucks seem to be a team that could be a challenge for the Celtics or the Cavs, but everybody else is just not really in the mix.
My boy Mitch is going to get some East Coast love tonight because clearly he held it down. We were going to ride through y'all like a snowplow, but he's got y'all covered. That is correct. There are a couple teams to talk about. But really, at the end of the day, they'll be fighting for whoever the champ is over here.
Yeah.
And, I think Boston, we all know what they are. So they could have a shot against whoever comes out of the West. But at the end of the day, if it's anybody other than Boston, you can write that one up, I think. I think Cleveland is a good team. But, I think in a 7-game versus some of these West teams, could be some gumbo getting cooked up. To the West, we got Oklahoma City Thunder at the 1 spot, 51-11. Yikes! This team looks for real.
Yeah,
this is not the same team that finished first last year or was vying to finish first last year. This is not that.
No.
That team felt kind of how I feel about the Cavs this year. We keep it 100. Good, I think, and there are different places, but I'm not a full-on believer. When I look at this team now, they've been doing a lot of this without Chet. They've been doing a lot of this with certain guys in and out of the roster or the rotation, and key really guys. Key guys. And really SGA is something else. I mean, he's Himothy. And he's just giving vibes of some of these greats that we've seen in the past. He's having one of those all-time great seasons where it just seems like can't do no wrong. When he's not getting 30, it's a surprise. And he's doing it efficiently. I mean, guys are getting cooked trying to guard him. Smooth operator. To me, true MVP of the league.
32, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists.
And give him the percentages.
Jeez.
Give him the percentages. Because, that's where you look at it and you're like,
oh, my goodness.
You're doing that on that?
You got to get percentages in there.
I'm just saying, the shooting percentages, the clips, because that's where you see that efficiency of, bro, he is.
Man, regular season, 52% from the field, 37% from three-point range.
Which is huge for him.
90% from free throw. So
That is nasty.
Almost 50, 40, 90. Pretty
Yikes.
close.
And
Pretty
shooting
close.
a lot.
Yeah,
and shooting a lot. Yeah. We got LA Lakers surprisingly at the 2 slot. They too have been on a run. They've been hot for sure in their last, really like 15, pretty much ever since that trade has been happening. And a little before that, they've been cooking. They're 39-21. Father Time has not caught LeBron yet. That's what we're all seeing.
Crazy work.
Don't know what else to say at this point. And then Luka, this may go down as one of the biggest travesties we've ever seen.
Dallas is crying right now.
Bro. Nico Harrison, we'll talk about you in a second, but you're in trouble. Denver Nuggets, 40-21. They're the team that's been in second place for the majority of this season.
Mm-hmm.
Good team. This year I'm not really that firm believer.
No KCP anymore.
No KCP. Defensively, they're not great. Jokic is obviously
ridiculous.
An absolute demon out there.
Patter.
Yo, and then now they got Russ too, who's just doing it from the point guard as well. Still like, yeah, I'll show you how to do this. They're both over there, just like 15 points, 15 rebounds, 11 assists type hype. So we'll see. I just again, Aaron Gordon's been out a lot, so maybe him coming back is going to give them that push to make them feel real.
Yeah.
I don't know if the depth is there, and all that. It just doesn't feel like the same kind of team, but you can never count out Jokic. Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant has come back and really, like we figured, turn that team right back around.
Triple J been going crazy.
Triple J has been phenomenal. Could be up for Defensive Player of the Year, DPOY. Which I think now that Wemby's gone, I think he'll probably get it.
Yeah.
And then AD has been sitting a lot, so probably going to go to him as long as he gets himself back from injury, because I believe he's out right now. But that team is good. Desmond Bane, they got guys across the board that can ball. This guy Jalen Wells is another one of these rookies that they always draft that seems to give them production in the right places. So a team that is going to be dangerous in the playoffs. They're always scrappy, but I don't know if they're quite as dangerous as some of those other iterations. They just don't quite feel like they have an identity as much, other than just being gritty. Houston Rockets, this is one of these teams we've talked about a lot all year. They're slowing down a little bit lately, hitting a little bit of a lull here. I know Fred VanVleet's been out for a while, which is their veteran leader, guy who runs the things, and so things have looked a little more sloppy, a lot more turnovers. Sengun has been wavering a little more this year. He's been really good, but
I feel like they don't have an identity, especially when it comes down to like final minutes of the game.
100%.
Who's going to take over? How are we going to be playing?
Yep.
Like, who's in charge? I feel like there hasn't been a true leader. I think they're trying to push Sengun to be the guy, but I don't know if in that group he's the guy to be him. But they still got to figure it out. They're still a very young team.
Very young.
See them doing this well already. Also a lot of credit goes to the coach.
Yep.
Udoka. Yep. So he's been doing great with them.
Yep. And at the end of the day, I think that they're one of these teams that's super good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can figure it out offensively, they can catch somebody slipping for sure. But all good defensive teams look better in the playoffs. Yeah. We do know that. So watch out for them. They got a lot of lanky and lengthy players out there who they defend a lot of positions, multiple positions. So. Next, we got us, man. This is where we've risen to, the 6th. So we have scraped our way out of the play-in. We are now in the 6th, which if you know,
party, pal.
That is huge. That means that would guarantee us a 7-game series no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you want with a roster like ours. You want 7 games. You want flexibility. You want options.
Mm.
We don't want a one-off. We are OGs with too much talent to put it all on one night where some young legs could just get the best of us. We need
a series. Us tonight. We was down, 25-5 to start the game or something like that? It was bad.
Yep.
And with any of these other playoff teams, we are not coming back.
Right. Yeah, the Nets are not what's happening.
Nets are not them.
So obviously that's huge. We were, 10-9, vying around there in the play-in. Now we're looking at 6. And the reality is we have these other teams like the Timberwolves, Clippers right on our tails. But we, too, are not far away from hopping to the 5 either.
Yeah.
Some of these teams go
Rockets could definitely fall off.
Easily. And even the way Memphis has been going, they got to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't stay healthy, which I'm not convinced they can,
right?
It could be real troubling for them. They can't score. They cannot score. And Ja Morant, as good as he is, he's not the greatest shooter.
No.
So if you clog the paint against them, if you get those passing lanes shut down, it is a nasty shooting night for those boys a lot of nights. Lastly, I'll just say we got the Clippers who have been, kind of floundering out. Sack Kings who made that De'Aaron Fox trade and have been kind of holding ground, if you will. But, I think that
Zach
team,
LaVine,
that
DeMar
team is,
DeRozan,
he's been going off, doing his thing, but
been balling.
But at the end of the day, no point guard. It'll be tough as it gets further down the season. And even if they were to get into this play-in, look at the rest of these teams. Like you're gonna have. I think Dallas will fall out of here. With them being in the 10.
Suns. Think the Suns can
I think
sneak
the
in
Suns
there?
will end up sneaking in the Suns versus the Kings. You're spooked. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They too are a team where it's like they're not good, but if KD and them get hot for in a series, they could do some damage to you. Especially we all know Devin Booker in the playoffs is a real deal. So that kind of rounds out the 10. Really, at the end of the day, we just wanted to make sure the standings showed the Warriors and how far we've come.
Yeah.
So awesome. Keep the good work up, boys. And before we move on from the NBA, just touching a little bit on the other big news, which is Kyrie is out for the season. Wowzers. AD
more injuries.
AD may get called to the sidelines for the rest of the year as well. I don't see
hang him up, bud.
You might as well just get right for the next year. Try to go get some lottery picks, and just see what you can do around getting some more youth to bolster all those veterans. But boy, Nico Harrison, is your job on the line or what? I mean, the cojones you had to have to pull this trade off, and how quickly it has gone
south,
right towards everybody's original storyline. Like it has literally followed what everybody feared, and within 14 days or something. I mean, it's been maybe that's maybe that's a little too far. But AD was gone game 1, and I think it was within 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. Kyrie's done for the season. Okay, so that whole roster's cooked.
That's crazy though.
Whole roster's cooked. And then and not to mention they were already down Gafford and Lively. It was just that roster in itself somehow was just so imploded. So imploded. That's a great way to put it. So if his job's not on the line, they must love that man and they must have a lot of faith.
I'm feeling bad for Clay. Sad Clay memes out there.
Slap the Jordan sticker on him.
Slap the Jordan sticker on Clay because he's done, bud. Wish you were with us, but you're not. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's rough. Could be balling with us, potentially going to the playoffs now, floundering around in Dallas.
Tough. So we also have Joel Embiid, who got shut down for the season, which is nobody.
What a surprise!
Shocked, to nobody's surprise. And I bet you PG follows. I mean, at this point, same thing with AD and PG. These 2-letter nicknames. Just get them going. Just
get out of here.
Get them going. That's podcast P at this point. Let's be real. So he might as well go fish and figure out what it is next season that will help turn that team around, which I think is a whole lot of nada. But both of them are done. Joel Embiid has had 2 knee surgeries. His knee is still swelling. That knee's
done.
Gone. I mean that's over with. So if it is close to what we're thinking it is, then that whole roster is done. It's Tyrese Maxey. So
build for Tyrese.
Yikes and yikes. On to the NFL. We have the Niners real fast. I got to give my tributes. I called this on the recent shows.
What's going on over there?
Man, I gave deadlines. When I give deadlines, it gets crazy. You know what I mean? When I give deadlines, it gets crazy. Like I said, Deebo was on his way out the door. I would have been shocked if we got anywhere near the true bit of free agency before this move was handled. It's a money thing. We're all going to miss him. That he's a dog, but where he was getting paid at, much too high to be a guy that's in and out of the lineup, and at the end of the day, he's a tweener, and so we love that, and we knew how to use him, but we also know that we were paying him wide receiver 1 money, and last year was really his make or break year on the deal. You know what I mean? 2 years that we've gotten out of the deal originally were great. I mean, we went to the Super Bowl. He was doing his thing. He was first team All-Pro. But the reality is this happens a lot in football. When you get to the tail end of a deal, front end can look great. Has nothing to do with what might happen on the back end. And it wasn't that his play was that bad. It's really at the end of the day, your best, ability is availability.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't there for him to be getting paid like that. I'm glad we could close the door in a peaceful way, right?
Got a whole bag of chips for him too.
Yeah, we got a 5th round pick, which I mean, at the end of the day, he was going to get cut. I mean, like that's the thing is he was about to get cut to save money. Like the reality is, you saw Devontae Adams just got cut. There's a lot of dudes that are getting cut where they're going to get a deal from somebody, and it's going to be a nice contract. It's not going to be just water muscle. You know what I'm saying? Water weight. You know what I mean? It's going to be a real bag. But at the end of the day, once you already know that you're going to have to cut ties, you're not going to get a whole lot. You know what I mean? And so getting a 5th is beautiful in order to be able to snag something, because at the end of the day, we thought there's a high possibility we're going to have to cut him just so that we don't have to guarantee this money. So, but I'm talking about it very business-like. With all that being said, I love Deebo, right? That's my dog. You know what I'm saying? Beast. I love cheering for him. I love that number 1 jersey. I love that 19 jersey. And he was just a dude that I liked the way he stood on business. Like the way he talked about our organization, the way he just didn't take no BS. When stuff came up, he took it dead on like a man. I can appreciate that in the new age of social media. I feel like, he was right there on the line of trolling a little bit, but I feel like he kept it in a professional sense, but it was also very competitive. And he really followed everything he said. Like when he was like, you're gonna have to meet me on the field, we're gonna strap helmets and see what it's about. He always showed up for those games. And I can appreciate a player like that, man.
Yeah.
So shout out to you, Deebo. He's going to Washington. I think it's a great situation. I hope he does super well. Him and Jaden Daniels, that's a weapon that I think Jaden Daniels could use, if only for the rushing. Right. I mean, those guys don't even, have much going on over there with Brian Robinson. So shouts out to you, man. I hope it goes well. You're going to be sad, like when you're looking at our team comparatively to y'all's. Wow. You know what I mean? Like y'all went on a hot run there, and that was what's up. But we all know what business is, and business is business. So once we back out there, it'll be game time. But the last financial bit of news for the Niners is we released Javon Hargrave, who also is a Pro Bowler, and is a guy that we signed to big money, and is another cap-saving move. He, too, was just not available enough. Last year was really the nail in the coffin. He went down game 3, I think, for the season, and it was just like, yeah, bro, you didn't even give us a full year first year, and now you're giving us 2 games, 3 games. That's football. Like anytime this happens in football, those guys just get cut because the contract just can't be. You can't guarantee that money. So I think we may end up re-signing him. The talk all along has been that he may just come back, but we knew we had to shake that deal. We knew we had to shake off that money. So these are 2 good moves heading into the offseason. I think 2 of the bigger things that we had to get done to get the money right, to then deal with Purdy, deal with the rest of these things, and still have money to go make additions. So sad when it's a big enough name like Deebo. Definitely a clouded up name as well. Yeah. Awesome guy. People love playing with him on Madden and such. But on to the next is business. We got the Raiders next, who Stafford, if you guys know, he signed with the Rams, so he's back over there. The question is it Darno now? What's the move at quarterback? Obviously, the Raiders are going to have to figure that out. They were definitely in on Stafford. It sounds like Stafford was in on them. And the one piece of positive news, obviously, you guys re-signed Max Crosby to a nice big old 3-year extension, I believe, and it was worth a hefty penny. Pretty penny there. So why don't you just speak a little bit on that, how you feel about the re-signing? And if you want to talk about the quarterbacks, I know we've been kind of rinse and repeating that subject, so no big deal if you don't want to.
I mean, it's good to have Max Crosby back, like you said. We need to have him. This whole last season was terrible for him. So getting Pete Carroll and the new regime in, I feel like it's something that convinced him to stay.
Yep.
We need to make some moves though. With that said, we kind of did this last year by having some veterans that were excited about the team and where we were going, but then we didn't make any moves. So now it's either get Darno, or as we see, a lot of the quarterbacks or the quarterbacks seem to be potentially dropping a little bit in the draft. So maybe we can get a Shedeur Sanders and have him paired, like you talked about last week, with Sam Darnold, because it seems like maybe he isn't quite ready from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be nice to have him and get some tutelage under Sam Darnold and Tom Brady. But other than that, I think there's some names out there. I mean, DK Metcalf is asking for a trade. Who was it from? Hendrickson just left the Bengals.
Yep.
There's just going to be a lot of names floating around right now, and I'm hoping that the Raiders decide to make a move and don't just stand pat with what we have and
they're known for.
Which we're known for. It's like let's make some moves. We've seen how it's been advantageous for other teams. Let's try and win right now instead of hoping that it happens out of osmosis because we're happy with the guys we have, but we didn't go after any big fish. So, let's get some big guys. I know we got guys like Devontae Adams, but we paired them with Gardner Minshew. So, let's make some moves that actually make sense to move forward because that's what's going to help us get wins, not relying on, we got who do we got? We got Cooper Rush at the very last moment, and he's going to be our starter.
Right.
So, just continue to make some smart moves. Tom Brady, keep guiding us, make sure we're on the right track, and hopefully good things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, quarterback is something that in this offseason there at least needs to be a plan for them of this is how we're going to move forward. Either we're going all in on just draft assets to eventually get that guy or we're hunting in free agency. But also the Raiders are super known for handing out big contracts and then being like, that was good enough. And they do it a lot when they're re-signing a guy, which is it's not a new guy.
Does Pete Carroll want Russell Wilson?
I can see it. Yeah, I can totally see it. I mean, if Pittsburgh is not going to be all in on that, you know what I mean? Because I heard Pittsburgh's pretty interested in bringing him back. Mm-hmm. I would take whoever Pittsburgh doesn't want.
Yeah, either or.
Give me that guy. And then I honestly would go in on Darnold. I would. I think especially if he's at a $30 million a year clip. I could do that, and that's I think that's something that you can feel good about as a starter, and then also it's not too big,
right,
to bite the bullet for a year or two and just have the most expensive backup in the league. That happens occasionally. Mm-hmm. The guy you did not mention, who I think both of our teams should be taking a look at, is Joey Bosa.
Oh yeah, Joey Bosa.
He got released. And then Christian Kirk, he got traded to the Texans. So the Jaguars receiver, who I actually think is tight. I think
Christian Kirk's solid.
I think he could be tight for the Texans. That offense getting another super speedy guy who runs tons of different routes. His route tree is nice. It's okay, CJ, eventually you're going to figure it out.
Right.
And you're going to have a plethora, a large option, a large pool of receivers and talent to throw to. On to the Champions League, which is,
the champions,
as we said last week, in really, pretty climactic space in terms of once you get to the knockout rounds, it is this is the peak of the tournament, I think. I think once you get later, it's very intense because there's only a couple matchups. Mm-hmm. But I think once you're in the round of 16, it's there's still space for upsets. There's still it's not that there isn't down the road, but there's still these crazy dynamics of matchups that you're not going to see in the later rounds as they purify with talent. But so I'll go over what has happened. We covered the matchups, like I said last week. Lots of things went down. It was very, very, very high scoring, in my opinion, in a lot of the games across the board. But just good soccer being played, football, whatever you want to call it. So first day we had Aston Villa taking on Club Brugge, and they 3-1 them.
Yeah.
And, I pretty much said this. They have spent a lot of money, and they got good offensive players. Mm-hmm. Rodgers played super well that game. Rashford has been playing super nice since he's been over there. Ollie Watkins is a guy that always is a talisman for them. But, they're playing well. Club Brugge is not the biggest concern, and definitely one of the weaker teams in the round of 16. But nonetheless, Aston Villa is not one of these teams that we've seen in many years, even coming close to advancing in these kind of stages. So kudos to them. Congrats. Next, we had Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. The Madrid Derby, showdown,
good goals
the Madrid Clasico. Talk about intense.
Julian Alvarez's goal, that was nasty.
He's playing out of his mind. He's playing out of his mind, and that to get it around Courtois without Courtois playing too, simply sensational. But then you look at like Kylian Mbappe is really becoming super comfortable now, which is getting scary because he just didn't know how to play with these guys. Rodrigo, I think, is one of the more underrated players in the world. He kicked it off. Yeah, I mean, it was like,
I'm here.
He froze everybody. That was so early on, and it was one of these things where I looked around and it was like only a Madrid on Madrid matchup could provide that kind of like, like they all just looked at it like a made jumper. Like, okay, he is saucy enough to do that. Go put the ball back up. Let's play. Like, it was like, what? And it's like only Madrid could just, Atletico that is, could just shake it off like that, right? And they're a team that just doesn't care. They don't care what the game looks like. They're just ready to play. So, of course, they scrapped their way back.
Yeah.
And then, we had a beautiful, beautiful ending to that game with Brahim Diaz's surprise golazo.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who does not score a lot for this team. Really an off the bench piece for the most part.
Like you said before, that seems to always happen for Real Madrid.
Always. He's pulling an Asensio. He's giving Asensio vibes. But yeah, it always happens for them. And it happened again. On to the next, we have the lovely, lovely game of Arsenal versus PSV.
That was a rout.
Which was 7-1. So you can call this matchup over with. PSV never really showed up, and they clearly, Arsenal's, once they kind of break the doors down, they're the type of team that can just bum rush in. And then also it's like PSV clearly gave up. Yeah, they just gave in. And then once you get down 4-1, you're looking at the second leg already, and you're like, how would we ever do this? And then now it's 7-1, and so nobody even needs to go back to that matchup is what I'm letting you know.
Stunzo.
The last one on that Tuesday, March 4th, was Dortmund versus Lille. Again, I kind of called this game. It was
boring AF.
Boring AF, and two teams that really, I don't know if they know who they are right now. I think they're pretty lucky to be in the places that they're in. Neither of them are doing that well in league right now. And so, if you know how Champions League works, you're in here based off your prior league's performance. So you can be in Champions League and be doing terrible in your league, and it has no effect on your Champions League standing. Both of these teams just seem to be, you guys are lucky you matched up together. Adeyemi scored, who is a talented youngster, very good. And then Haraldson scored for Lille, which yeah, exactly. that guy, you got to tell me if you can even find him on FIFA, which you probably can. But anyway, on to the next day.
Interestingly enough, that had the highest attendance of all the games this past weekend.
Interesting.
Of 81,000.
Interesting. Yeah, that's odd. Very, very odd. Not that both of those teams don't have great supporters, but maybe that was just stadium size or something like that, because clearly with Real and Atletico matching up, it's like, ain't no way. It had to have just not been enough seats. But Feyenoord, the next day, this is the following day, Feyenoord was playing Inter Milan, and they lost 2-0. Inter Milan, like I said, is just a good team. They're really one of these teams that they play from the back forward. They're super strong, and then they just have two strikers up top that whenever they get fed balls, they can finish them.
Yeah.
But they're just going to hold you down. They're not a team that's super exciting to watch, but against a team like Feyenoord who might have a little less talent, it's just like, constricting, like a python kind of. It just slowly takes the air out of a team, and then it's done. Next, we had another German clash here with Bayern versus Bayern Leverkusen. And there was an early red card there, which just really set the game into shambles. And you just can't do that with a team like Bayern, who is everybody in Germany's big brother. Yeah. So you give them a little space, and they just see blood in the water and do what they normally do. So 3-0. I think that one's done. It's really hard to come back against a team like Bayern, and then 3-0 is just like you're gonna have to go back to their crib. And anyway, next we had Benfica versus Barcelona. My boys.
Close one.
This one was nuts. I mean, to get a red card in the 20th minute, It was very weird. There's certain aspects that you could see it playing into our favor. The only way I look at it like that is because we no longer were going to play a high line. And so once you're doing that, it's like, really, we're now waiting for you to make a mistake, and we have enough talent to do that. But they were catching us out before. I mean, that was the thing, is like playing that high line, they were really well coached for it. And in the first 20 minutes before the red card, they were foot on our necks.
Yeah.
So Kubarsi, skeptical how I feel about that tackle. Real sketchy going in there like that, missing the entire ball and just taking it off both legs. But also the Pavlidis or something like that, their striker, dude was a beast. I think he's from Greece. Man, he's big, physical, and fast. And like, he made a run on that one where like that was going to be a goal, and he did it to the neck. I mean, he just did a pullback, whop, turned it in. The speed was like nobody's grabbing even Jersey. I mean, it was like, oh no. And he was going right at Chesney. It was like, oh, it's me and you now. So Kubarsi had to do a little rugby play, and we paid for it. But we are lucky to come out of there with a 1-0 victory. Whenever you get a red card that early, it is pretty much get back, camp, and pray. And Rafinha, I cannot say enough about this dude.
Always coming through.
Just this year, he's having like an SGA type year in terms of soccer. Like, everything is going right. And a lot of it is skill. And then there's some things that you see where it's like, man, I just don't know. Like, I just don't know what I want to attribute that to. But today was one of those where it was like, he's amazing. He presses. He independently broke their little stupid buildup that they had with his own press, one-man press, and then takes on two defenders, shoots it from literally like 5 yards outside of the 18, and it just corner pockets on the ground. And he just runs off like, and everybody knew like, damn, that might be Kurt.
Yeah.
Like, that's a robbery. He just stole from us, you know? And now they got to come back and come to ours. And I think we're in a really good position. And it could have been a lot worse. And Barcelona's known, if you know anything about us, we get tons of red cards in these big games. I don't know what it is. We are jinxed with that. Lastly, we have Liverpool versus PSG. This was an amazing matchup as well, albeit not a lot of goals. But when you want to talk about like high-level ball back and forth, this game had it. PSG was all over these guys. All game. Salah really did not play well. My boy's cousin was not there. He was not ready, which is rare this season. Salah's been cooking. But he wasn't there, and Salah was hot when he got subbed out. But I think he knew deep down, like, damn, I'm like really I'm really not doing it today. Like, it was really him. It was really him, where it was like, you know, he can cook those guys. But he just wasn't there on that game. And then Harvey Elliott comes in and like 2 minutes later scores. And he scores on a Salah type goal where he's like running down, quick pass, opens his hip, whips it wide with his left. It was picture perfect.
R1
Salah
circle.
goal, 100%. Whip around. And you all know Salah would do that. And so it's good to see that he wasn't hating. He allowed that to happen because we all know Salah's capable of that. So, of course, it would be a Salah-style goal that ends up winning it. And if you want to talk about stealing, that is the biggest robbery of all this. I even put that above our game, even though we had a red, because I think we are that much more talented than Benfica.
Yeah.
Whereas, dude, Liverpool was Liverpool was getting beat on. Belt to you know what. And for them to just have like one of their like 6 shots be the one that beats PSG when they're knocking all night. I don't know how you go to Anfield and feel okay about that after them just coming to your crib, taking all. That's like taking your best punch. That's like I assume that's like what Muhammad Ali was doing, where it's just you can punch me all you want, taking everything, and then once I know you've given all you got, okay, I'm ready to engage, and it's like, no,
it's over.
I'm good. And so yeah, I think that one, PSG does have the talent to come back, but it'll be really hard. And so these matchups have all led to, like, if there's anything to watch truly, you got to keep an eye on the Real Madrid Atletico game just because you can never count them out. But even them going in, you don't go back to Real spot
Yeah.
and go get a dub. It doesn't happen in this tournament. But PSG Liverpool is still definitely watchable. And, you know, it's kind of sad to say. I think the rest of them are pretty cooked. But, you know, of course, Dortmund Lille is watchable if you want to watch that. But yeah,
there's something for everyone, you know?
Exactly. Maybe if Gio Reyna gets a start, I'll watch or something like that. But other than that, no can do. So those games are going to be on the 11th, Tuesday, the 11th of March, and then Wednesday, the 12th of March.
When everybody in the U.S. is watching, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect timing.
Right, exactly. So make sure you're tuning in if you can. Obviously, 10:45 and 1 o'clock slots. I believe maybe that is right because we're going to have daylight savings coming up, I think, this weekend. Mm-hmm. But I still think, why wouldn't that be 12? Anyway, so before we get up out of here today, that's the beautiful reminder. Daylight savings is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If your clocks aren't automated, go ahead and change them up. I don't even know. Does that mean we get an extra hour? I don't know how this one works.
Just informed me about it. So.
Yeah. I never know. Savings makes me think we're going to get an hour back, but
I'm surprised. Don't some places not even do that anymore?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're debating.
What is time?
Yeah. I think they're debating if we should just get a little more consistent with it. We'll just one off this thing. But anyway, they haven't done that yet, so make sure you change your clocks if
forward
that's not
and or backwards.
Right. I'm not going to tell you
whatever
which direction.
It is.
Exactly.
It's a surprise.
We're not going to tell you which way. But we look forward to being back with you guys after daylight savings.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to tell you by then which way it went for sure.
Things might really change after this.
Exactly. But without anything else on the agenda, I just want to say go Dubs. Man, keep that streak alive.
Let's go, baby.
Thank you, Jimmy, for coming to the Bay Area. We appreciate you. Mm-hmm. And then show them Harrison Barnes real quick.
Oh, our boy, Airy. Welcome to the squad, buddy. I know you're no longer on the Warriors, but you're here with us.
That was from the original championship run, baby. Shout out to you, dog. We'll see you next week. Much love from the Say Something fam.
Peace.